Welcome, everyone. We are here at Career and Professional Development Services from Passion to Purpose. Thank you all very much for being here. As we are going to go through this event today, we have incredible guest speakers from the nonprofit industry and our staff members. There will be time for questions at the end, so make sure to stay tuned. My name is Veronica Aguilar. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Career Services here at Arizona State University, proud Sun Devil alum and current MBA student at WP Carey School of Business. I'm also an alumni, I have my water bottle here, of Teach for America, one of the nonprofit organizations we will be highlighting this evening. Here is the agenda. We're going to hear from our incredible guest speakers and leaders. There'll be time for Q&A. And then, of course, for those who are live within this webinar, we're going to have some virtual networking, and then we will close it out. Alexis, I'm going to pass it on over to you to talk about our raffle.
Yes, hello everyone. You actually have a chance to get some awesome ASU goodies, and the way to get that is to just stay at the end towards the very end, and then your name will be put into a raffle, and whatever name is pulled, you get some awesome ASU goodies. So make sure you stay till the end and hear from our awesome speakers.
Thanks, Alexis. All right, so we are here on behalf of ASU Alumni Career Services this evening. As many of you know, we have an awesome staff here at ASU that works to make sure you all have the needs, both alumni, students, and community members, and our employers, to hire the best Sun Devils, to have incredible job opportunities, and be able to be a part of our community. So as we are thinking about Alumni Career Services, we want to let you know that you have free career services for life. No matter what year and when you graduated, you can come back to our office and get direct support and services. We also have virtual advising appointments and virtual career opportunities during this time. And of course, an incredible opportunity with the ASU Mentor Network. We have a list of Sun Devils in that network that you can network with and communicate with. And of course, if we have anyone tuning in right now that wants to hire some Sun Devil students and alumni, we have that for you as well. This Professional Perspectives event is part of our free alumni career services. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into the nonprofit sector that we are talking about right now. Here are some incredible statistics that we wanted to showcase with you all for this nonprofit industry. Currently, right now, we have this industry that is just growing, right? So even during recessions, the nonprofit industry continues to grow, even over the last decade. Growth in wages and employment are currently outpacing both business and government. And when we think about nonprofits, right, we want to make sure that you all know what that means. There are industries in environment, healthcare, education, public sector. This is an industry that is near and dear to my heart as being part of the nonprofit industry. There's so many incredible layers and organizations, and that's why we wanted you all here to join us today. We know that you want to learn about this industry so you can maybe be a part of the incredible work that our leaders are doing to impact the communities in so many ways, as you can see. All right, so now it's time for our incredible guest speakers here today that we're going to be chatting with. We are so thankful to have them here with us this evening as supporters of the Sun Devil community, but also as amazing community leaders throughout not only the local and state, but also national and global. So welcome to these four incredible guest speakers here with us this evening: David, Katie, Penny, and Raina. Many of you are dear friends of mine, even mentors of mine. So honored to have you all here today. If you all want to briefly just introduce yourself and share your title and the organization that you work for, then we'll start talking a little bit more about some tips and tricks. David, I'll pass it on over to you.
Thank you, Veronica. David Adami, I'm the president and CEO of Chicanos por la Causa. We're a 52-year-old organization working in multiple states, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Thank you, Veronica.
Hey, everyone. Hooten. I'm the executive director for Teach for America Phoenix. We are also a national nonprofit in about 50 different sites across the country, and we'll also share more later. Pass it to Penny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Penny Alley Taylor, and I'm with Valley of the Sun United Way, and we are part of the United Way Network, which is a worldwide nonprofit, the largest in the world. And I am the Chief Public Policy Officer, and I work out of Maricopa County. And Reina.
Thank you, Penny. Hi, everyone. My name is Reina Montoya. I am the founder and CEO at Aliento, where we transform trauma into hope and action with the immigrant community. We are proudly anchored in Arizona, doing a national spread wide impact.
Amazing. Thank you all again for being here. I'm going to stop sharing screen so you all can see each other's faces. For those who are here in the webinar, feel free to do speaker view. For those that are live streaming, we're excited to have you hear from our guest speakers today as they hop off a mute, share their journey and some tips and tricks. So Penny, we're gonna have you start us off. Thank you again for being here.
Okay, thank you, everyone. As I mentioned, I'm Penny Alley Taylor, and I'm the Chief Public Policy Officer for Valley of the Sun United Way, located here in Maricopa County, Arizona, and the home of our awesome Sun Devil alma mater, Arizona State University. I'm a graduate of the School of Liberal Arts in Public Affairs, Public Policy, and they used to call it Political Science. Graduated in 1983, so it's been a while. And, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Christine Wilkinson for recommending me to participate in the program today, and Veronica and her team for being our wonderful coordinators and MC tonight. So
thank you so much, Penny. And side note, Penny, if you are able to, we'd love to have you show your screen and video.
Oh.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was on. Okay. So I'm a native Phoenician and Arizonan, and I love our community and our state. I came to the nonprofit arena much later in my career. I spent the first part of my working life working for governments for the first 15 years at the federal level, working with our US Senator and a federal regulatory agency, and at the state level serving in the governor's office and then moving on to his presidential campaign, and at the county level serving the board of supervisors and county officers. And my political science degree came in handy and was very heavily used. I then moved to the to the private sector for a 20-year stint with a utility company. And I worked in the government relations department with a team of 8 and was very happy. And some say I moved to the dark side when I became a corporate lobbyist. I didn't move to the nonprofit sector easily, as I didn't realize there was much of an opportunity for my skills and what I do. It wasn't until I got together with a friend for lunch that had moved from the private sector to the nonprofit world that had given me the idea about making the change. And we had met casually over lunch and had conversations. And, she told me that she had made this transition from her role being with a for-profit organization to the nonprofit of Valley of the Sun United Way. She had been the chief financial officer for Mayo Clinic, and then she moved over to United Way to be their chief financial officer. She said she'd never been happier. She said she loved her job, she loved the people she worked with, the mission of the organization, and on and on. And after a few months later, she let me know that United Way was looking for someone to help in the government relations department, or government relations. They were looking for someone with more of a starter position. And I let a few friends know in the lobbying community about this opening. United Way chose their candidate. They made an offer and all was good, but then it wasn't. Their candidate had another offer and the position was open again. My friend asked me if I would consider it. And initially I said no. Then she asked me to come over and meet some of her team. And I really liked them. They were great. The issues they worked on were important. The approach they took to solving huge, hairy problems were smart. I didn't say no, and I didn't say yes. After sitting on it for a few weeks, my friend called me back and made an offer. And I didn't think I was what they were looking for, but she reached out again, and she sweetened the offer. And I thanked her and I thanked them, and I was very polite. And then they came back and they made another offer. And although it wasn't as sweet as being in a private enterprise, it was great to be wanted and wanted so much. So I accepted, and I accepted the new opportunity to follow a long, unsatisfied passion. The passion to help others, other people, and to be around others who felt like me. The skills that I used for so long in the business world transferred very well into the nonprofit world. Since then, there's been a number of nonprofits that have expanded their staffs to include their voices in the advocacy and lobbying field. Some have hired individuals into their staff. Some have hired lobbying firms to represent their interests with governments. This has benefited not only the individual nonprofit, but the overall sector. As Veronica alluded to, nonprofits make a significant segment of not only the Arizona economy, but our national economy. You might be surprised that there's an association of nonprofits in almost every state, and recently they've expanded their programs to the advocacy space. Here in Arizona, we have the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits that has over 1,000 members. We have a policy council that takes positions on federal, state, and local issues that affect the nonprofit sector. There's also a national council of nonprofits that represents the nonprofit sector in Washington, D.C. They work very closely with each other to impact federal legislation. There are growing opportunities to work in the nonprofit sector in all sorts of positions. Nonprofits have all the same positions as businesses. They just do it without the same financial incentive, with paybacks to stockholders or owners of businesses. For-profit organizations are built to serve the business owners. The nonprofit organization is built to serve society at large. They have different rules on taxation, but nonprofits do pay taxes, just not in the same ways. For-profit organizations and nonprofits use many of the same systems for following cash flow, receipts and payments, incomes and expenditures, and the balance sheets. The culture of these two types of organizations are different. Working for a nonprofit is not always about the bottom line and making money, although for nonprofits, we do seek out donors to help invest in our work. That's one of the main differences. We ask people to invest in us without getting anything personally in return. What they get in return is usually something that is devoted to serving the public and is shared by or used by others. Also, donors can get a tax credit or a deduction depending on which organizations they invest in. In the case of profit-making organizations, benefits are realized by the purchaser, understandably expecting something back for their dollars. Working for a nonprofit can be very gratifying in more ways than just financial. I often get a psychic payment or deposit when I see our investments in the community. Seeing someone who was once homeless to now working and living on their own is a deposit. Knowing that we're providing access to workforce programs, food for the hungry, healthcare for the sick, childcare for struggling parents, safety for those who suffer from abuse and human trafficking, after-school programs for kids, meal delivery for senior citizens, and the list goes on and on. This is a psychic payment and a deposit into my heart and soul. While the donor doesn't get anything tangible back, both the community and I get a sense of value from making our community and our state a better place for our most vulnerable neighbors. Making the decision to move to a nonprofit was the way for me to express my passion and purpose. And you can do it too. Thank you for your time and interest, and I look forward to hearing more from our other highly, highly qualified speakers and jumping into the conversation with you. So now I'm going to pass it over to Raina.
Thank you so much, Penny, for that and for sharing your story. I think for me, it starts growing up in the borderlands of Tijuana, just 5 minutes walking distance from the US side. And growing up as a little girl in the in between space that I like to say it, I never would have fathomed that I would have been the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization. As an undocumented student growing up here in Arizona, I heard so many no's. I got so many doors closed in front of me just because I didn't have a 9-digit social security number. And I felt shame. I felt shame when I would be picked on in school because I had an accent. I felt shame when every time that I was asked, well, you have really good grades. What are you going to do after you graduate high school? Didn't have a real answer. That every single plan and every single checklist of my 10-year plan that I had everything figured out of going to ASU, graduating with a political science degree, to then going into law school, getting my law degree, to then work for the United Nations, out of the sudden would be so crumbled and so fragile. Because once again, I was told that no matter whatever I would do, it was not good enough. And then yet, I had the incredible support of two beautiful immigrant souls, Mario and Rosie, who are my parents, who always believed in me and said that the journey might be more difficult, very different and unconventional, but if I had a dream to go to school, to go to university, it was gonna be possible. And I like to share that because it was the big belief of my parents that they instilled in me of saying that I could do it, that I could have a pathway to chase my dreams. And even though that they didn't graduate high school, they were not an obstacle, but they were my biggest cheerleaders in my journey. And I oftentimes think about what happens to those students that were not as lucky or as privileged to have that supportive system as I did. So I started in community organizing when I was at ASU. I double major and minor in political science, transborder studies, and I minor in dance. And every single person will criticize me. Why are you doing dance? Why are you wasting your time? Don't you want to be an attorney? And now I get to tell them, well, dance has really shaped who I am. It allowed me to heal. It allowed me to heal from that shame that I had whenever I couldn't really truly articulate myself in words without being picked on or being made fun of. It allowed me to heal from the traumatic experience of having to talk to my 5-year-old sister and see her in the eyes and tell her that my dad was detained and I didn't know if he was going to be able to come home. Dance gave me back my voice that for so long I didn't have the opportunity or the courage to share. So now fast forward many years since I graduated from ASU, being a proud Sun Devil, I get to have the privilege and the honor to lead this nonprofit. And the journey has been very bumpy. It has meant to not have a business degree. I did not major in business. I still pull my hairs with budget sheets. So when Penny was talking, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. I want to cry out of thinking everything that I had to endure. But at the same time, at the end of the day, for me, it goes back to the basic fundamentals about the importance of believing in something that is greater than yourself. That along the way from being a little girl and having to feel that shame and felt so disempowered to being able to find again a voice and know that my voice matters. And there's so many other undocumented children and immigrant families that have so much potential and have so much joy, that are creative, innovators, and so powerful, but our society is not seeing that value. So how do we shift that narrative? And I get to be very lucky to work with a very dynamic team that has utilized the arts, has utilized policy making, and has said, no, we're not only going to be the storytellers of our lives, we're going to be the strategists of our lives, and we're going to shift the narrative, because undocumented people are resilient, they're powerful, and they're part of our community. Because believe it or not, you might not know someone who was undocumented or who grew up undocumented, but at the end of the day, it is about the fact that they are our neighbors. They go to school with our kids or with our peers, and they are sitting in our classrooms. So what is our responsibility as society to really pay it forward and create a nation that is inclusive of all beings, regardless of their nationality, their skin color, their gender or religion? And for me, that's what lights my passion. I don't know if you can tell, but it goes back to the fundamentals of that. Sometimes you think that you might have to have all this 10-year plan and figure it out. And for me, it's immigration and having to see every single person be valued by who they are and not their immigration status. And I was a teacher before founding the organization, and I'm so happy to share the space with Katie. I did Teach for America as well. And in the classroom, I continue to go back to this passion about seeing my students face those barriers with education and being told no. And for me, that was so unfair and so unjust. That why do we have a society that we're teaching our young people to dream, yet we don't have supportive adults that are gonna back them up? And we have this unique opportunity to be those adults in the room and backing each other up. And sometimes you don't have to be an adult. You can be a kid and also backing each other out. And for me, that was a lot of the inspiration of founding Aliento. So with this, as I'm wrapping up, I would love to talk to you and engage in conversations about how we've been leading a very successful nonprofit organization after 4 years, where we have touched the lives of over 50,000 people now. Not even in my wildest dreams I would have thought about that. Have led both local and national campaigns, but more importantly, have created a safe space where people don't have to feel shame, where people don't have to feel pain, and know that they're not alone. That at the end of the day, we all might have different struggles, but we have each other, and we can believe in each other, support each other. And that's what's going to be our North Star, because politicians will cycle out, careers will cycle out, but people will never cycle out. So if we invest in each other, I truly believe that no matter if it's education, immigration, the economy, or the arts, at the end of the day, if we're truly investing in the human spirit, we're gonna be able to make it possible. Even when you're pulling an all-nighter at 3 a.m., either if it's as a student doing your finals or as an entrepreneur trying to figure out budget sheets. So thank you so much. And with that said, I'll pass it over to the lovely Katie, who leads a lot of incredible education work. And I'm personally deeply inspired by her.
Thanks, Reina. As you just heard, Reina definitely does what she espouses about investing in people. I told her right beforehand, I'm like, I don't want to have to follow you, Reina. I just adore you. And she's like, you're going to be great. And just is just exactly an example of her incredible leadership. So grateful to be here with so many awesome folks and representing an organization that I care deeply about. And I'll just say, like, my motivations for doing nonprofit work and for being in nonprofit work have absolutely evolved over time. But what ultimately brought me here and to educational equity specifically is deeply personal to me. I grew up 30 minutes south of Milwaukee and an hour north of Chicago. So a very, very cold place to be right now. And I lived just a few houses down from my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather, who were both first-generation Americans. And while they both only made it through the 8th grade, my great-grandmother quickly instilled in me that education was the pathway to opportunity. And so I knew for such a long time, I was like, okay, that is my North Star. I'm gonna graduate. I'm gonna be one of the first in my family to graduate from college. And so I was able to, I worked full-time in college and was a full-time student. I took my classes on a lot of nights and weekends classes. And when I graduated from Marquette University, I joined my sister as the first generation in my family to graduate from college. And I truly will never forget the moment on my graduation day when I was standing there besides my like literally 4 foot tall great grandmother. And it's like this big juxtaposition. I'm super tall, she's right here, but like holding my diploma, it was truly one of the most proud moments in my life. And it's transformed me and set me on just like a different career path. So I ultimately, you know, in college, I thought I was going to be a journalist. I was working for Discovery Channel Latin America. That's where I was going to go and work. And that was until I met a Teach for America alumni who spoke about her experience as a teacher in New York City. And she was so driven, so committed, so completely unwavering about what her kids could do that I remembered thinking, I want to be a part of a team of people who believe this fiercely in children and who know that they, our kids, have the power to create a different country and a different world. And I believe that with my whole heart, right? Like our kids are our future, they are our state's future, and their potential is limitless if we believe in them. And so I was like, I need to do that. I believe so much in that. And so in 2002, I packed up all of the things that I owned, which, spoiler alert, was not a lot, and drove here from Wisconsin to Phoenix and became part of the Teach for America Corps that year and had the opportunity to teach kindergarten in the Osborne School District. And that decision and that moment forever changed the trajectory of my life. You know, I'd planned on returning to journalism after teaching, but I fell completely in love with my students and their families and this community here in Phoenix. And as a teacher, I can say, like, I truly have never worked harder or felt a greater sense of responsibility in my whole life. But most importantly, as I got to know my kids and love my kids, they taught me so much about resilience and joy and determination and family that have shaped me in profound ways and are still the reason why I'm here in this work 18 years later. So while my personal story brought me here, it's my students and the students that I taught and the students that I've had a chance to like meet over the last 18 years from being in classrooms here in the Valley, and it's their limitless potential that keep me in this work. And it's knowing that the educational system wasn't built for them to succeed that keeps me here, and knowing that change, we have to create change, and that change is systemic, and knowing that systemic change is going to requires people working together, right? Teach for America, like I'm so proud to be a part of Teach for America. I'm so proud that I've, you know, been able to work with and learn from people in the organization for so many years, but we ourselves can't create ourselves that we want to see in the world, right? We have to be in deep partnership with others and be building coalitions for change. And I think that's one of the great things about nonprofit work is that, you know, you are working together. It requires that. And so I will say, you know, that's the personal reason that brought me here and why I'm committed to it. But I also deeply believe that nonprofits have offered a different experience. So Raina was kind of like joking about the finance budget spreadsheet in the middle of the night that you're working over, right? But it's true. What I kind of love is it forces you, it's brought me a lot of skill sets that I don't think I would have necessarily gotten if I was working in a for-profit, because it was probably more focused. But I've had the chance to like do budget and finance management, right? You're sometimes the HA team yourself, you're leading the program work yourself, you're fundraising, different things that I've had the opportunity to build my skill sets in as a result of working for a nonprofit. And so one, I'm grateful for the skills that I've had a chance to glean. And two, I'm grateful for the people doing the work. What I found is, regardless of where I'm at, the folks that are in it, there's a real passion and commitment, and that gets me out of bed every morning, right? I want to love what I do. I want to believe in what I'm doing. And I get that every day in my job. And I feel like that's maybe rare. I don't know. I hear it could be rare. And, you know, I think the other thing that I love is just being a part of work locally. And at Teach for America, I've had a chance to work both on the national team. I led our national teacher support and development team for 8 years. And, you know, realized that I was missing seeing like a local community change. And, you know, that's what brought me into this role 5 years ago. And it's really filled me in a different way, right? Like I loved being able to see it from a national perspective, but it was really hard to see change or to feel like, yeah, I felt a little disconnected. And so I loved and appreciated that experience, but, you know, being able to do work in the place where I live, I think also deeply matters to me. and it's been really inspiring. So I would love to talk more about educational equity or any part of the nonprofit sector in the next piece. And with that, I'm going to pass it to David.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. And, great to see Sun Devil Nation, undergrad 1986, School of Global Management 2003. All my colleagues on this panel are fantastic. I work with each and every one of them. Chicanos por la Causa runs charter schools. So of course, where do we recruit our teachers from? To America. United Way obviously supports many nonprofits through its funding. And then Reina is actually one of my bosses. She's on my board. So we had to get that younger generation and make sure that, us older guys don't forget, the new generations and new ideals. But my background, I've actually jumped back and forth from the for-profit to nonprofit. I've come full circle. So I started right after school working for Chicanos por la Causa, and it was that ideal of me that I wanted to give back, right? Pay forward, go work for a nonprofit for a while. And so I started there and went off and did my career. I've worked at JP Morgan Chase Bank doing their corporate banking stuff. I've worked at Fannie Mae in the secondary market for mortgages. I've worked for a national real estate development company called McCormick Barron. And so I've gotten a lot of skill sets, but my heart was always wanting to come back and work with my community. So when they recruited me to come back and work with Chicanos por la Causa, I made it tough on them on the negotiations, but they knew my heart was here. And I think you have to have that DNA to work in these nonprofits. My colleagues on this panel, they've all have made sacrifices in some way or another, but they do it out of passion and the love. That's the theme of this organization. So Chicanos por la Causa has been at it for 52 years. We started during the so-called civil rights movement days in the late 60s, right? There was all the movement, the women's movement, everything. We were part of the Chicano movement where we organized outside of schools and the kind of like the more rebel type of stuff. But we've come a long way in 52 years, right? We like to say that if we have to do a march, we'll do a march, but we're also in the boardrooms and, right, we know how to do this stuff. But I wanted to really emphasize that the nonprofit sector is an incredible career opportunity. And I wanted to take it from a perspective of just Chicanos por la Causa, right? We're a unique organization that we do healthcare, we do education, we do economic development, we do housing development, and we're also involved in the political process, like some of my colleagues here. It's an interesting time right now, actually, in that area because the legislature's in session. There's all kinds of bills floating around. So if you really like to get involved in making change to getting involved in the political process or the bill process, we actually have a separate organization called the CPLC Action Fund. And it's a separate organization because legally you have to have it separate because a nonprofit can't get involved in electioneering and those types of things. But if you study that kind of stuff, there's great work to do in the nonprofits because we are the change agents. I call my team the superhero change agents because those are the ones that are really digging in and working to make sure that our community, there's equity across the board. There's all kinds of issues that you can take on there. But let me talk about Chicanos por la Causa with the opportunity. It was mentioned that, yes, we're one of the largest in the country, one of the largest in the state. We have 1,200 people on our team. We're in 5 states, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. We also just made an investment in the island of Puerto Rico, which I'm excited about. And we also have a nonprofit in the country of Mexico, and we have plans to grow past that. So let me give you an example in our healthcare area. So this is where you get to bring the skill sets and get creative while still using what you like, whether it's finance or marketing or even just healthcare itself. So we got a call from United Healthcare, the big insurance company, and they were trying to figure out how do they save costs on their healthcare delivery. So got my team together, got somebody from every department, healthcare, finance, real estate, sat around and we just put our thinking hats on, right? The innovation part. So I got to fly to Minnetonka to make the big pitch. And I said, we're going to offer you an opportunity where you're going to cross-sector housing and healthcare. So, because I'm not asking you for a big grant, free money, poor nonprofit. No, these nonprofits are businesses. So we told them, give us access to low interest capital. We're going to buy apartment complexes, clean them up. We're going to set aside units for your patients. And that probably, we call it the 80-20 model. We created a private sector Section 8. If you know what Section 8 is, that's a subsidy that help people pay rent. But this is not a government program. This is a private sector partnering with the nonprofit, and their return on investment is over 20%. They've loved it so much that we're doing another project in Las Vegas, Nevada, and they created this national program based on an ideal that came from a nonprofit organization. In education, going back to my, I love ASU, talking to Dr. Crow, talking to the folks that operate those charter schools that ASU has. Chicanos por la Causa is partnering with them because we're trying to find a way, how do we increase the per student investment? Unfortunately, in this state, we're one of the bottom. I think we battle a couple other states to be last place as far as how much investment we make in our students, which is horrible, right? I sit on the Greater Phoenix Leadership thing. That's another nonprofit, another angle. And we know that if we want to try to recruit companies to come in this market, especially California, you got a lot of companies moving out of California for various reasons, we got to have the prepared workforce. And so we have to invest in our infrastructure, our elementary schools, our high schools, right? We need to make sure that they're ready, and then we get them to the university so that they have access to engineers. One story that was told to me, we're involved in the Arizona Canadian Business Association. And one technology company came in from Canada, went to Tucson, Arizona. They needed 30 engineers. They could only find half of them. So what are we doing? We're going to create a workforce development program. We're going to work on that to make sure that we make the proper investments and partner with many folks to make sure that we can recruit companies. So now what they did to find the other half, they went into Mexico City, and recruited 15 engineers from there. I don't have a problem necessarily with that, but we got a lot of talent here, a lot of nonprofits that know how to do workforce development. We got great universities like ASU. We can come up with those solutions that sometimes paralyze some of our systems to come up with creative ideas. The last one I'll tell you about is housing development. During the 2008 recession, if you guys remember that, some of you guys are kind of young, but there was a big foreclosure crisis. And we organized a cohort of 13 nonprofits across 8 states and the US Capitol. And we said, we have a way to how to fix this problem, make sure our community gets support to get out of this recession. We led that coalition, we received $138 million to manage across the country. We did so well that we ended up #1 in the country in outcomes, delivery, leverage. That $138 million, we leveraged to $1 billion. We did so well that the President of the United States at that time, President Obama, came to personally visit us along with the Secretary of HUD, who happened to be Julian Castro at the time, to personally thank us on the solution, the creativity have. So there's all kinds of tremendous opportunities to work in nonprofits, whether you're passionate about immigration like Raina, or passionate like Katie about teaching and those types of things. There's so many opportunities, and people kind of give us the bad, but well, it doesn't pay well, this and that. There's some good ways to offset that and make it nice for you to have a good career and doing something with a purpose is which I like to say. So I think my time has run up, so I better stop. I get excited because I love this industry, and we're hiring. So when we're in these chat rooms, come talk to us.
David, fantastic. Thank you all so much for your advice for our students, alumni, and community members listening. I know we have a couple of questions in here. So Allison, I'll pass it over to you to ask some of those questions for our guest speakers.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks to all our speakers, just really incredible and inspiring words. So a couple of questions I think would be great in our short time. Tell us what skills you think are most important in nonprofit work, and what's some of your best advice to help our listeners break into the industry if it's something that they are inspired to do?
I'll start. I truly believe you have to have a lot of skill sets, but I truly believe you have to at least have the basics of finance. I know not people, accounting isn't a favorite thing, or operating budgets, but we have 2 guiding stars in my organization. So everybody knows what those are. I have a financial goal, and then I have an impact goal. But the financial goal and the impact goal go hand in hand, right? So no money, no mission is the classic, right? So understanding a balance sheet, and understanding an income statement, and understanding how each of them impact. My evaluation is done on how I grow net assets for the organizations. Net assets are basically net worth. And understanding how all those components work together, I think is an important skill set that you should have. Just one of them, but that's an important one.
I'll just drop in here after David and just say adaptability. You know, things move very quickly sometimes in the nonprofit sector. And if you're not comfortable with being able to make a quick decision or what have you, this may not be the area for you, because you need to sometimes act, your organization needs to act very adroitly. And so if you're looking for calm waters, this isn't necessarily the place, but it's very exciting at times. And the good thing is because they can move very quickly, that's the benefit of having a program that's run by a nonprofit compared to having a program that's run by a governmental entity sometimes. Because if you want to change something, you got to go back to government and you've got to change a rule, or you've got to change a law, or you've got to, change something at that level. Whereas with the nonprofit, when we see something comes up that needs to be acted upon, we can take it to our executive team or our board of directors and move that around very quickly. So there's some benefit to being in that kind of a role. And it can just be really exciting knowing that you can take steps very quickly.
Does anyone else want to chime in on that one?
I'm happy to add on. I also connected with the adaptability is like setting vision and direction, like the ability to, and just to that point, it's going to change over time, and being able to also take stock of how your organization needs to evolve. But I think at the scale of an organization or at the scale of a project level, right? Like, how are you setting a super compelling vision? How are you going to manage success? Just back to David's point about your impact on that, and then be able to actually strategically plan to like realize that. And so I think they're transferable skills. I saw someone ask in the chat about teaching. And again, I think there's lots of transferable skills that I think overlay the nonprofit work, but, and I mean, not to squeeze in too many, but also like really strong like people skills, right? Influencing and motivating and partnering with others and working together, like lots of different skills I think that really matter in any industry and any career, I think are necessary and needed in the nonprofit world as well.
Something to add on to the incredible words of wisdom that everybody has provided, I would say that self-discipline is key. I think that at the end of the day, it's like, how do you negotiate between your own self-discipline and being able to meet those goals and making sure that you are holding yourself accountable to the greater good, in this case of your team. So how do you go from the team to the self and constantly negotiating that I think that sometimes it's easier said than done, but it's like you have to be moving as a collective while holding yourself accountable to the success of the organization, because at the end of the day, nonprofits were founded for a reason. They were founded with a mission of solving a problem, and your whole mission is to hopefully run yourself out of business. So one day you're able to solve that problem and it evolves, and hopefully you're not needed any longer.
Okay, thanks so much. We do have time for one more. Thanks, Sheila, for passing us on from LinkedIn. Great timing. We'd love to hear about ideas for resources for students who might be exploring starting their own nonprofit.
I can start. There's so many good resources out there. I would definitely encourage you to start with a fellowship. Fellowships give you seed funding so you can start exploring your idea. I think it's super crucial that you're doing a market research evaluation. I know that sounds super fancy, but what it really means is that you're really looking at the landscape. You want to make sure that you're not redundant. You want to be able to add to the ecosystem. So if you're passionate about education, what are other educational organizations doing, or what are they not doing that you can be complementary to the field? So definitely that's something that I would encourage for people to do when you're starting to build your own nonprofit and have a team. I don't think Aliento would be where we are if I didn't have an incredible team of people who believed in the mission and the vision of the organization and were able to roll up their sleeves and said, hey, I'm a graphic designer. Big shout out to Diego, who I don't design, I dance. I told you I dance, but I don't design. So he was like, okay, so what do you want to name it? Like, what do you want to have? So sometimes it's being able to have that spirit of inquisity and being able to look it up. I think that David made a great point. You have to have some acumen in the finances. I had zero. I didn't know how to read a budget, but I took it upon myself and I would be researching and going to classes. I even ended up getting a certificate from Harvard on exponential fundraising. Never would have imagined that, but there's many resources out there. ASU has incredible resources. Big shout out to the London Star Center for Innovation and Nonprofit Management. They have very good tools that you can do, from creating your vision and your mission to creating your business plan. That is very important, as David and Katie already brought up.
Yeah, there's a book that I recommend to colleagues who are going to be CEOs for the first time, and it's called "You're in Charge, Now What?" It's kind of basic, but it does give a nice, I think, 8-point plan on things you need to start thinking about if you're going to lead an organization, right? Don't forget, you may have a board of directors. Depending on how you structure this, you got to be able to manage that and have the people skills to manage that. I have to work with Reina, so look what I have to do. Just kidding, Reina. Yeah, those there's plenty of resources. The beauty about the internet now is you can get a little bit quicker access to it, but there's plenty of those hidden, I'd like to say those hidden pots of gold within some of the government agencies as well, that we even as an organization still access. So it's out there if you want to make it happen.
I'm happy to add on. I think Reina and David really hit on some key points, and I would just underscore the piece about a fellowship or a mentorship, organizations like Seed Spot that can, that have helped other organizations do this. And again, I think mentorship is critical, right? Like, is there someone in this community who started their own nonprofit like Reina or someone that you could, build a mentorship from, learn from, ask questions. And to me, I would say, like, in every stage of my career, mentorship has been critical, just of like being able to check my ideas and plans. And so I would, just really underscore that piece.
Yeah, I'll just add to what our other speakers have said, and just be bold, be tenacious, contact those nonprofits that you would like to engage with, let them know you're available, volunteer to do something. Go to the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits. They have a website there that has all sorts of information on it. You can contact so many different organizations that way. They have different programs. They have a jobs board, all sorts of information there. So if you don't know where to start, that's a great place to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the wonderful questions, everyone. And we'll pass it back over to Veronica.
Awesome. Thank you all again so much. I'm going to share my screen here so you all can check out this slide. I feel like we all kind of touched a bit on this. There are so many jobs. Sometimes they're just like jobs that we don't even know about, right? And so here are a list of various jobs that within the nonprofit industry and sector that we have available in all different organizations. So we really encourage you all to check this out. Check out these incredible leaders and the work that they're doing within the communities, because there are jobs out there for all of you to put your passion into purpose and into an incredible career. So for those of you all listening out there, thank you so much for hopping on. For those that are in the webinar, we're going to continue this event. All right. Hi, everyone. So what we're going to do now, for those that are currently on, we are going to head into virtual networking for those who were able to log on to the event, which we were so excited about because we know we had a lot of questions in the chat room. So we want to make sure that you all are able to ask these questions. And we want to make sure you all know who the other staff members are that are current students here at Arizona State University that I have the honor of managing. So here's how this is going to work. This is going to be fun. So we'll have virtual breakout groups, 4 different groups that each of our speakers will be leading. And each of you all will have the opportunity to chat with them. What's going to happen is after 7 minutes, we're going to rotate the speakers out into different rooms. So it's going to get a little clunky. You may see someone disappear and then reappear. That is totally okay. And we're excited for you to connect with them, hopefully via LinkedIn afterwards in any way, shape, or form, but have the opportunity to ask all the questions. We know networking needs to be redefined right now, right, with the environment that we are in. So we hope that you enjoy. And I'll put us into breakout rooms.